Good morning, everybody. It's PDF44 coming at you with another video. This time I'm at home. Enjoyed my birthday yesterday watching the Laker game, eating some wings, and now I am working it off. It is hot. It is the middle of August, and I am an unhappy Laker fan. Why am I making a video like this when I haven't made a video like this in a while? Because something needed to be said right away. I didn't want to wait till I got to work for this one. This needed to be said now. The Lakers have guard issues. After watching game one of the Portland series, which I predicted that we would lose, what I expected to see was pretty much what I expected to see, but the way that we lost was not what I was expecting. It was a defensive game, and it was a lot of poor shooting on our part. Portland didn't play particularly well, but around the 6-minute mark, Dame did what Dame does and shot us basically out of the basketball game. Shout out to CJ McCollum for hitting some big shots. Carmelo Anthony hit some big shots as well. So they did what they need to do down the stretch of the game, and we missed free throws that hurt us, both LeBron and AD. LeBron had some really bonehead plays down the stretch of that game. Nobody's really talking about it because we had other woes that I'll get to very soon. But I think when it came down to winning time, when they look back at the tape, they're going to see something, and that something is going to be Dame closing out the game and LeBron failing to do so. AD defers too much to LeBron James. There was a play down the stretch of that game where I thought AD should have ran the ball down, and he deferred the ball to LeBron James and then ran to a corner and set up a play. I just don't think that's the way to go. You want AD to continue to be able to go downhill. He's an amazing downhill player for his size, and you want to put as much pressure on those bigs as possible. When you get those opportunities, I would suggest you take them. LeBron James doesn't always have to run the ball down, and he certainly shouldn't be the only person creating for us. So that's something that we need to figure out. We have Dion Waiters on the team. We need to play him. He's a ball creator. He can play some one. That's one of the things that he's able to do, is get like triple doubles on good games because he's looking to pass half of the time. I know his shot selection isn't good, and I know he's a drastic defensive liability at this point against a team where you cannot have drastic liabilities against guards. So I understand why you don't play him, but I also think that if you use him properly and you put him in at the right times, he can help you, and then you sit him down, it doesn't do as much damage to your defense. You just got to know when to put people in, and I don't think Frank Vogel's thinking this thing through properly. What I'm seeing down there from Frank Vogel is he's putting an emphasis on defense because he's afraid of Dame Lillard going for 60 points. But the problem is the defensive players that he's putting up against Dame Lillard and CJ, they aren't hitting shots for the Lakers, and they're taking possessions away from our team. They go downhill in transition, get easy buckets to our missed wide open threes. You know what I mean? I thought we rebounded the ball yesterday pretty well. I thought the Lakers ultimately had decent defensive sequences here and there, especially from people like Alex Caruso. Of course, Anthony Davis played some good defense. KCP had 3 steals. So I saw some things defensively that I had no problem with. And it was one of the reasons why, the Portland Trail Blazers didn't score a whole lot in that game. It was pretty low scoring for what you would expect, because really we did some good things defensively. As I expected, their bigs were a problem. They were. Whiteside and Nurkic are going to create issues for Dwight Howard and McGee. So Anthony Davis is going to have to play some center, and we've been trying to protect him from doing so because we know we want to keep him as happy as possible. But sending him home early because we didn't do all we could to win, it's not going to make him very happy. So we need to just ask him to do some things like play center so that we can stay big at all times. Kyle Kuzma needs to be featured more. I loved what I saw from him all bubble long, even though he hasn't always hit shots. He's been aggressive, and he looks like he's trying to prove himself. He has a lot of confidence. He's not in a slump. We need to feature him more. You guys want him to be your third best player. You chose him over all the other kids, and Brandon Ingram went on to be an all-star. We are in the playoffs right now. Kyle Kuzma wants to prove he's as good as Brandon Ingram, and he's not going to be able to do that if we feature him 4th and 5th behind Danny Green and KCP shooting a bunch of bad shots. So help me understand this part, Laker fans. If we're going to win this series against a very, very, very tough guard tandem, do we go for defense and continue to go with these non-shooting shooters, or do we ignore that and try to match their offense with the type of players like J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters can be, creating more for our offense and allowing us a little more opportunities to see scoring. For me, the world looking around what everybody's saying, they're talking about Danny Green. I didn't see as much wrong from Danny Green as everyone else did. And why? And I say that because I missed some of the first quarter, and I was a little distracted because it was my birthday, so I'm doing all kinds of stuff while I'm watching the game. Every time I looked up and seen Danny Green shooting a shot, it went in. Believe it or not, I missed most of his misses. Didn't mean they didn't happen. I know that they did. I'm just saying I didn't see them. He hit 3 key 3-point shots that he should have took, and I felt that LeBron James made a mistake not hitting him in the corner at the end of the game. It spoke to a lack of trust, and I think this is the wrong message to send to an NBA champion, someone who's fresh off a championship, that you don't trust him in the corner of a shot of a game down the stretch. He had missed some threes, and it is a running joke that he's been playing trash, and I do agree he was awful from what I heard, even though, again, I didn't see it. I saw the box score. It wasn't pretty. But he hit some. He hit some in the second half. And that last corner 3-point shot was wide open. He decided to give it to a covered Caruso, who I thought was going to try to kick it to Danny Green himself, but instead tried to shoot a contested shot. Just showed us where Alex Caruso's offensive IQ is at this point. It's just, even though LeBron missed that pass, Caruso should have been still trying to get that pass off. There's no way you leave Danny Green wide open in the corner when you're down by, I believe, 4 or 3 at that point. So it was a poor decision by a great player in LeBron James. You don't send that type of message in the playoffs when you want guys to rally around you. I know he missed a bunch. I know that, the aura is he ain't gonna make it, but you still gotta trust your guys. If you're gonna go off and make a statement like getting the record for assists in a playoff game, the last play shouldn't be you missing a guy who's been missing shots in for a wide open 3. That just shouldn't happen. And I thought that LeBron James did some bad things. It was a 3-point shot I didn't like. It was a sequence where he was trying to force the ball down the stretch I didn't like. I just felt that Dame Lillard did a much better job closing out the game than LeBron James did. And it speaks to what LeBron James's weaknesses are versus Dame Lillard's strengths. Dame Lillard's a Kobe-type killer. He's a killer. He's a Oakland killer, bro. And if you're not going to respect what he brings to the table, he will close you out. Around the 8-minute mark, things were starting to look pretty solid for the Lakers. We were keeping up with Portland pretty good, but Dame wasn't quite in the game yet. And I'm saying to myself, at some point, Dame's gonna come in and he's gonna start firing. That's just it's like the pace of a Kobe Bryant basketball game. Come 7-minute mark, he's coming in and he's shooting. And we did very little to protect ourselves from what we knew was coming. And I blame Coach for that. I really do. I blame Coach for that. If you're going to choose defense, go all in. You know what I mean? Make sure that the guys that are on the floor are solely focused on doing what it is that they need to do to stop Dame Lillard. There's no reason for us to be letting them set screens and going around those screens at the top of the key. Dame Lillard's going to be able to shoot that 30-footer. He's going to do it. I would rather take my chances with him driving down the lane. There were it was a sequence down there where we were playing against 4 shooters and Hassan Whiteside. We covered the 3-point shooters, but left Hassan Whiteside to get the dunk down in the paint. I mean, it was just certain defensive sequences like that where I'm like, if we're going to forego all this shooting with J.R. Smith and Waiters sitting the whole damn game because we're afraid of them being bad defensive liabilities, then I can't see sequences like that where we mess up on defense and then come back down and still can't shoot a damn 3. Not acceptable. You're not going to win nothing that way. Not this series and certainly not a championship. So I just need Frank Vogel to step his game up and stop being so damn scared of Dame Lillard. You know what I'm saying? Stop being so damn terrified of Dame Lillard. Because your fear is going to get us knocked out of here. Put J.R. Smith in. He's an NBA champion. He's known for shooting threes. He has all kinds of chemistry with LeBron James. Give him a chance. See what he can do. I guarantee you Swish is going to ring off some threes. Even though he may miss a defensive assignment, he'll give you 9 points if he's hot. He'll give you 15 points if he's hot. And if you let him get his confidence, you may mess around and see him get 30 one day. But that can never happen if he's sitting on the bench doing nothing, watching Danny Green brick, watching KCP brick. He's better than both of those guys. Let's not play ourselves. J.R. Smith is better than both of those guys right now, man. Let's just be honest. He may not be in the shape that he needs to be to guard some of the guys on the other end, but his shooting ability is what we're lacking. So for me, it's bench KCP. And one of the reasons why I'm willing to bench KCP is because I know he's banged up. I know he's banged up. I've seen that KCP when he plays well. He's not that. His mechanics are off because his legs are not right. So we're running around saying, well, we're going to give that up for defense, but he's still going to shoot because he's KCP. He's not thinking, let me kind of temper myself a little bit. No, that's not how he operates. He's downhill, very simple stuff. Go straight down, shoot the ball. Now, I love what he can do in transition. Again, he did have 3 steals, and nobody's mentioning that because he missed a bunch of shots. It didn't make anything, but those steals were meaningful. That's why he's on the floor. Vogel's a defensive coach. We're going up against Dame. But it does not work if they're not hitting shots. Caruso's a very difficult player to watch because where he is in his development, and I've seen players like this before, they usually work their way through this, but where he is in his development is 1 step forward, 2 steps back. In other words, he's the type of player where he'll make the right defensive play, but then he'll come down, turn the ball over. He will make another fantastic defensive play, come back down, shoot a bad shot. Make a great play for somebody else. Do some type of phenomenal dunk. Maybe even 2 in a row. Come back down, brick 3 shots in a row. Like, he's one of those. So you give up so much for all of the good that he does because he really does play defense sound. Extremely sound. Like, he's one of the better players we have at reading circumstances based on players in triple threat. In other words, he's not going to be jumpy defensively. You know what I mean? He's going to stay down. He's going to read what the player's doing and react as best as he can to it. And we have players on our team that are not good at that, and it shows. But he's one of the more sound players in that regard. We need to play him against Dame because he is having success against Dame. But we need to use him in such a way where he doesn't have as much power over our offense to take certain shots, such, et cetera. We don't want to try to hit him up as a 3-point shooter because he's not able to hit set shots, 3-point shots like that. If he hits one, you're happy, but you're not trying to set him up for that. Danny Green doesn't put the ball on the floor at this point. His defense is a bit slower because he's older and his shot isn't falling. At this point, if he doesn't seem like he's hot and he's not giving us defensive stops, you take him out and you replace him. You know what I mean? You don't stick with what's not working. And I know that we have a long series to plan for. You want to keep guys fresh. Some guys are going to get a lot of minutes some games, and other days they're not. I get that. It's a playoff series. I've seen enough of this to know how this works coaching mind-wise. But when you go up against certain type of players and certain types of systems, you cannot afford to do things as usual. When you got a guy like Dame, something has to give. In my mind, you let Dame go for 60. But what you do not do is allow yourself to be shooting 33-point shots and only have like 5 or 8 of them fall. Like that, no. I'd rather have shooters on the floor that can't defend hitting those shots than have defenders on the floor shooting them, giving up possessions, forcing defenders to go back down there and have to do all that work just to get scored on anyway. Just to get scored on anyway. So at this point, it's like, all right, now I could see if they were just getting all kinds of stops and we were just so immaculate on the defensive end that it's hard to give it up, but that's not what's happening. They're still playing well. With DJ still going off. Dame's still closing us out, so the defenders aren't doing anything. That's what it is. Kuzma needs to play more in this series. He needs to play more, period. In fact, for me, as I said a little earlier, going big, I wouldn't mind seeing him play a little 3. We can move LeBron James to the 2 or the 1. There are a lot of options we have with our roster that we're not using. Big part of why the Lakers lost because Dwight Howard couldn't stay on the floor, and I don't blame Dwight Howard for any of that. I felt he was removed from this game. That's what I want to say about that. And the NBA has a certain agenda about how they want this thing to go. Sometimes it's not always the most conventional thing, but I can tell you that the way that they operate, and have always operated, is remove certain players from certain games. Like some guy that they don't want to see go off, or somebody that'll mess up how they're trying to control the game, will be removed. Now I know that's a controversial thing to say, but as much basketball as I've watched, I've seen it enough to almost understand what they're doing when they're doing it. And that's exactly what I saw yesterday with Dwight. He was removed from the game. The fouls that he was picking up were absolutely bogus. And, really he was just forced into early fouls, which made him frustrated, and he was never able to really do much. But I do like what I see from him, and I know he's going to go off on Portland. He'll probably get us a win himself with his rebounding and with his putbacks, because he's that kind of player. They're not going to be able to keep him down. So that was somebody I thought would have helped us win that game if he would have had more minutes. So keep that in mind, people. Dwight was pretty much removed from the game. And that left, Whiteside to eat, who had a really good game defensively. Nurkic is playing great. He's playing inspired. You can't be upset at him. Gary Trent Jr., I felt like if I was forced to watch somebody shoot, I would rather it be him. But he did hit a critical shot down the stretch. And Carmelo Anthony shot his back. Whoever that guy was in Houston and OKC, that's not who's with Portland right now. We need to be very, very mindful that Carmelo Anthony's kickstand is in full effect. The chemistry over there in Portland is serious. This is going to be a long series. I'm telling you. If it's not going to be a long series, it's going to be because we didn't get our crap together. We're not going to win the next 4 straight. I can tell you that right now. I'm telling you, that's not happening. Portland is not a normal 8 seed, and the reason why is because they have key players that have been out of their lineup for the entire season who are back. Nurkic wasn't there. Obviously, Trent wasn't playing like this. Carmelo Anthony came in halfway through the season, as we know. It's just a lot of pieces that they picked up that have made them a lot better, that they didn't have, that put them in the position to lose some of the games that they otherwise would not lose now if the season were to start over. I think Portland's more so like a 5 seed, 4 seed, and we need to treat them as such, respect them as such. There's other parts of this situation I know I want to mention. What did I see? I like what I saw in transition at times. Like I said, Alex Caruso, I don't want to remove all his minutes, but we got to take some of them. KCP, you can take him completely out of this thing. You really can. Danny Green. It's hard for me with Danny Green because he just won a championship. I don't feel like removing a player like that is the best thing for the team. But if he keeps shooting like this, he's a liability. He's not effective enough defensively at this stage in his career for us to put up with bad shooting from him. And so I'm not hopping on the bandwagon as it pertains to just benching Danny Green like what's popular, because Danny Green wasn't as bad as KCP. He just wasn't. But Danny does need to get his act together. And, don't take shots you don't trust yourself taking. I know you're a shooter. That varies in terms from person to person. But it's the playoffs. We're going up against shooters. We can't afford to miss shots. We just got to think that way. Frank Vogel, Jason Kidd, Lionel Hollins, you guys got to make some adjustments very, very, very quickly. And you got to make a decision with Dame. Either you're going to continue on the path that you're on, he's going to beat you this way, or you're going to put some more offensive firepower on the floor and just let him go for 60. Just let him do it. Shut down the rest of the guys and just let him go. Because what will end up happening is we will eventually wear him down. And one thing that I want to mention also before I get out of this video, basically, Portland has been playing a 7-game intensity since the beginning of the bubble. The Lakers have not. The Lakers have had things sewn up for the past since the bigger bubble began. The complete opposite situation. So what we're looking at is a team that's given their all, because every game they've played it's win or go home. And they won the games that they needed to win. They made some mistakes too that they learned from, them 2 missed free throws from Dame and all of that stuff. They've been battle tested in this bubble in ways that we haven't even looked for. And we've had our eyes on the Clippers the whole time. And I'm telling you, if we don't match Dame's intensity and come to the understanding that we're going up against somebody that's been playing on Hall of Fame difficulty while we've been playing on pro all this time, if we don't meet that intensity and start getting our act together in that way, we will succumb to the will of a player who's conditioned to fight for his life every game. And that's why I didn't laugh at Chuck. I didn't laugh at Chuck. I know Chuck is sweeping us around and he's a hater. Nobody will ever question his haterism toward the Lakers. The man's a diabolical Laker hater. But we can get swept in this series if we don't acknowledge that they've been playing on Hall of Fame mode difficulty and we've been playing on pro difficulty, and now all of a sudden we have to meet them. It doesn't matter if they're a better team or not. They are used to a certain level of intensity. And if we don't match it right away, we lose. And that's why I had this going to 7 games. That's why I had us losing the first game, because that very thing. I've seen it so many times, you know. Teams that have been battle tested versus teams that have been fat and happy. And that is what we've been, fat and happy. With bad habits in this bubble, mind you, and no Avery Bradley to solidify our 2-guard spot. We have problems. And they're fixable. They are fixable. But we don't have to win this series. I'm not sitting here putting any money on this series. As a fan, I'm still confident that this is going 7 and we'll win game 7. But I'm telling you, if we lose, I'm not going to be the guy that's just sitting up here depressed, because that could very well happen. That could I'm preparing myself for an upset in this first round, especially since it's a bubble with absolutely no traveling. So meet their intensity, man. Dame's been fighting for his life the whole time. Meet his intensity. AD, step it up, bro. 20-something points. I like the fact that you get to the line. It's a steady flow. I love it. He looks to get fouled on every play, and he knows he's a great free throw shooter. So on most nights, that's going to really help us. And the nights that he's going off completely crazy is because he gets to the line a whole lot. I like that. But sometimes you got to look to just simply make the right shot. Sometimes he attempts shots knowing that he's going to get fouled. And those shots are not being, he's not shooting them as if he thinks they're going to go in. We need those to be and ones, bro. We need those to be solid possessions. We do love fouls. I see the fruit in drawing fouls, but we have a offensive rhythm issue. Other guys, they're not scoring. So when you have other guys that are struggling, looking to draw fouls doesn't help get them in rhythm. And that's something that I noticed yesterday as well. So AD's gonna have to look to really make rhythm shots, rhythm passes, and not just try to draw fouls. Draw fouls is wonderful. Don't get it twisted. I love the idea, but when you have rhythm issues, it needs to be curbed a bit. That's what I'm seeing out there, man. There's more to it. When Rondo comes back, he's gonna have to play well. If he's out there sucking, we get him out early. I'm sorry. I love Rondo. I really do. But he can hurt us just as much as he can help us. I have not forgotten how bad his plus minus has been all year long. And him coming off an injury, probably rushing back because he thinks we need him, could really force us into some bad situations, especially on the defensive end when it's time to guard Dame. Rondo is not our savior. No. But we do need somebody else to run offense. And if we can just get Waiters and Rondo down there, that takes all the pressure off LeBron from having to do that. I think it's a good decision to try to play those guys, see what we get. But if we don't like what we see, we remove them. You know, do not play cold hands. Not in this series. Do not play cold hands. That's what I got, man. Thank you guys for listening to this rant. BDF.